We whiz through life one moment at a time. The wisest of the wise remind us that now is all we have. The saying that the past is history, the future is a mystery, but now is a gift. And that is why it's called the present. And if you've looked into self-help or philosophy much, you will be aware of the importance of living in the present and the power of now. And I'm, of course, a huge advocate of the power of now. But for the sake of clear thinking, today I'm going to look at the opposite side of this argument. One of the other greatest pieces of wisdom that I've learned is that writing and advice is always one-sided, and there'll usually be a perfectly good and reasonable truth than things that you can learn from the opposite side of things that you might learn in a book that's trying to tell you one thing. So all this focusing on one single moment, albeit the one as it happens, seems like a little bit of a tunnel and that you're not thinking about everything else. So hello and welcome to the Growth Mindset Podcast. We're going to start with inspecting the tunnel vision nature of humans. After all, humans are focused on only a tiny amount of things. Our vision is highly focused on a single point. Our vision is focused on only a very small single point, for example. The fovea in your retina creates the only part of vision with clarity, and the rest of it is just peripheral blur. Similarly, your mind really only tackles one thing at a time with any clarity. And you can handle some peripheral stuff on autopilot, but consciousness is mainly in one place doing one thing. And so is our life. It's in one place doing one thing at a time. Our life is lived in this one focused moment with a bit of peripheral thinking forwards and backwards. And our peripheral scanning can impact how we feel in the one moment that we are in. But it's pretty clear that all of our existence is only ever in this one very tiny slice of momentary time. And as a human, you are stuck in the tunnel, and that is the portal of your life and all of your future selves forever. So thinking about now is, of course, important. But then why would you want to escape now? It's common that saying that all of our thoughts around trying to escape now is a bad thing, and that we want to spend our time looking into philosophy and meditation to really center ourselves in the now. There's a very stigma against thinking outside of now, which for the most part is accurate, because I think that most of our thinking outside of now is just the peripheral outer edges thinking of like now-ish, as I would call it. And I think all our frustrations that this philosophy of meditation tells us to stop worrying about are the now-ish things. So pining over like losses recently, or like things that we're hoping for in the future, like tomorrow, next week. All of these unrealistic things are forgetting to be happy now. But this skips the fact that most of our non-present thinking, we're often thinking about, what do I say next? What am I going to have for dinner? What will I be doing next week? Will I go nuts if I continue doing this job for the rest of this year? Our thinking really rarely breaks out of the next few years. So the problems with obsessing outside of present now are usually in these now-ish areas of time. So this doesn't include things like, what about in 5 years' time or 30 years' time? What about thinking of what you're going to do with your lifetime? Or like after you're dead? Who considers how much their life is going to contribute to the next 1,000 years of humanity? And I think actually now is important, but also the long term is really important. And part of being present in the now is knowing how your present life ties into your long-term future. A great writer who I love reading is called Nat Eliason, and he really encourages 30-year thinking, where you look at your routines, your hobbies, your job choices, and ask if you still want to be doing them for 30 years. And if these activities are really contributing to who you want to become. We all have work that energizes us and work that drains us, yet we'll often skip the work that we love doing to do the other things often that drain us because it isn't prioritized. Long-term success comes from compounding and nurturing our talent over time. The work that we can stick with in the long term is work that energizes us. So if we really want to truly achieve, it might mean saying no to more conventional things that pay better right now in the moment, and our current day-to-day priorities are actually clouding our real purpose in life and the things that are going to help us achieve our best outcome for success. Nat says that Finding energizing work is more beneficial than setting long-term goals. A goal might be fulfilling for a moment as it's reached, but that sense of contentment quickly fades. If you don't enjoy the process, checking off the goal after goal becomes tiresome. So mastery comes from sticking at something over a very long time. As we know, most people can learn 80% of a skill very quickly. If you keep jumping around and changing, you won't ever become exceptional at anything. Thus, the questions you should be asking yourself are, what do you want to be doing in 30 years? And is that really reflected in how you spend your time today? And there are some other ways to really apply this 30-year thinking, and I think it's so helpful. So let's imagine that you want to be a great writer. Then that means you should write every day today. Look at your time and be honest about how much time goes into your true skills and passions. If you're writing, for example, and you're not writing all the time, that's a sign that you really do need to change. And it's easy to make excuses for putting things off, but that's not at all the definition of living in the moment. That's just being lost in now-ish, with your peripheral moments of things and priorities overtaking what you actually should be doing right now. Being in the moment is making hard decisions and choosing a really interesting life over an easy life. Now, it's important to remember that 30-year thinking extends over just skills and work. Are your friends 30-year friends? Will they grow alongside you and challenge you and learn with you? Will your kids play together while you support and inspire each other? Or are your friends just kind of convenient people that are just helping you with your peripheral now-ish things that aren't really the kind of people that you expect to build a whole life with? Is your lifestyle a 30-year lifestyle? Are your health choices and exercise? Now, health choices and exercise compound over the years, and putting those things off now will just accrue problems later. Investing in learning to enjoy cooking healthily for yourself will pay back in dividends in this age of convenience. And on the subject of cooking and health and friends, having a group of friends that gather in your home to share dinner is infinitely better than going to a restaurant, for example. So back to Nat Eliason, he gives a few questions that you can use to really help you with the 30-year thinking idea and how to apply it to your life. He says that 30-year thinking can provide clarity that you didn't realize you had about how you should spend your time. Is this work something I want to improve at for the next 30 years? Is this person someone I want to see weekly for the next 30 years? Is this habit or ritual something I want to do for the next 30 years? Is this how I want to spend my money for the next 30 years? Is this a topic I want to read about for the next 30 years? And is this how I want my body to look or feel for the next 30 years? All of these areas are so important. And what I really like, so Nat Eliason, after doing this, he's now started doing a great books project where he's literally gone from like the top, I think, 1,000 books that you should read in your lifetime. And he's gone with like the very oldest book. And he's just starting there from like 5,000 years ago, like the Odyssey and stuff. And he's just slowly coming up to now. And he's just reading book by book. And I think his approach to like how to read as well as how to spend time with your friends, how to live healthily and cook and everything, it's just things that you would really do now if you were thinking long term at the same time. Now, of course, people do change over time. If you're thinking about like who you want to spend time with as your friends or what your tastes and interests are. And that does mean that you might not have perfect answers right now to some of these questions, but a good question should help you notice the many imperfections that you have in your current answers so that you can improve them. Because ultimately, many of our now-ish decisions will not match your true long-term desires, and that should change how you act in the now. It's said that it's very easy to fall into the one-day trap, believing that once you make some more money, once you have more time, once you finish this project, suddenly you'll be free of the obligations standing between you and your ideal self that you want to become. But one day never comes. We have to start creating our one-day ideal self now because it'll never happen otherwise. Another really important aspect about this that I think this really helps with is that it's because it's so easy to get caught up with what we're doing at the moment without thinking about the long-term things that we want to be doing, that we get surprised as the years flash by and the thing that we're working on now is still something we're working on in years to come. And if you are writing a blog or doing a podcast or running a business or you're in a job, our focus of attention is always on the now-ish things, the next step, and we don't see the bigger picture. And there's a really great question for this that could be the topic of like an entire episode. But the question is, am I doing something because I want to keep doing it or because I don't know how to stop. And whether you're chasing that next promotion or trying to grow your audience for your blog or your podcast or your YouTube channel, we often aren't stopping to think what would happen if we opened our mind to the possibility of just doing something very different. Because you could be doing a podcast that could be growing much faster and be making you more excited and give you more fun at the time. The thing you're doing right now might be going okay, but is it the thing that you really want to define you for the next 30 years? Does it actually have the potential for the success that you think you deserve and that you're looking for? So would working in a completely different career actually be better for you, or just a different company? Would writing on a different topic or under like a different concept make your writing grow much faster? Stopping is such a hard thing to do when you have momentum, but it can actually allow you to go so much faster when we embrace that it's just a gear change. So, in summary, the present is important and we should really try to be in the present, but part of that, I think, is thinking long term and going way outside of just like next day, next week, next year, and thinking like 30 years time, and then letting that help us decide what we really want to be doing with our lives for the long term, and then bringing that back to the now and really being in the now by knowing that we're doing something that's really investing in our future and is the kind of now that we want to live in every day for the majority of our lives. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you've been inspired to think deeply on some of these topics that I think are real game changers. And as always, life is about enjoying yourself. So be nice to yourself today. And whilst you're at it, be nice to someone else.